Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about the complex, intense story that is 10 Incarnations of Rebellion by Vaishnavi Patel. And this is just a story about rebellion and the cost of the fight. Like, Vaishnavi Patel drops a definitive banger for me here of the year, with this alternate history spin on a British India that never was. So what is this story even about? We follow Kalki, who has a regular life in Kingston, which is the city that was built when Bombay burned down. Her father, an Indian revolutionary, has been missing since her childhood, when he fled with the British hot on his heels. All around her, like everyone around her, essentially, they just kind of try to scrape by and survive, and in as much safety and comfort as they can manage. Even as they suffer under these intense shortages and exploitation and deprivation and just straight up degradation at the hands of Britain. That is basically life as an Indian in a world where the British have decided that they know best when it comes to ruling. And all of that is happening even as like Indian history and culture is just banned, and like even the menfolk of this society, they're all taken. They're all swept up into the whole British war machine and treated as little more than cannon fodder. So when a certain triggering event happens, Kalki decides that it's the last straw. Enough is enough. It's time to either fight the British or die trying. And yeah, that's the basic premise of the story. But like I said, this was a really intense book, and it was really creatively put together too. So like, talking simply about the structure of the story, this book is split up into 10 chapters, and each chapter is a moment of a year within Kalki's life. And the chapters all end with a fable that revolves around an incarnation of Vishnu, one of the primary Hindu deities. And the moral of that fable directly correlates to the moment in Kalki's life that we capture, as she basically lives her life while resisting the British. Now, what makes this even cooler on a further level is that one of the stories in here is like one of these incarnations of Vishnu that we see is the Buddha, which makes me think, I'm no expert by the way, so correct me if I get this wrong, but that being there makes me think that the depiction here is related directly to Vaishnavism, which is one of the major branches of Hinduism basically. So like there's a lot of meta level story going on here, so to enjoy. I could be wrong on that. I should probably have looked it up before I sat down to film this, but I don't roll like that. Yeah. Anyway, so like there's a lot of meta stuff basically going on with just the way that the book is structured and how it's written, that it draws on Hinduism essentially. So there's that. But anyway, moving on to the rest of the book. Like the book, it primarily focuses on Kalki and her friends and her family and her close associates essentially. And these characters, they're all finely drawn characters who serve a distinct purpose within the story of just highlighting the different motivations and drives and concerns and responses of people to British subjugation. We have some responses like the oppressed, who they simply they just want to live their life as safely as they can while enduring whatever it is the British control them. We have the enraged, who they suffer under the yoke, but they have this rage in them that they can't out, that will eventually lead them to either self-destruct or fight. We have the resigned ones, who are pretty much just accept the world as it is, and they just try to make they just accept the abuse, and they're even grateful that it's not as bad as it could be in their mind, which separates them from the oppressed, because they're actually grateful for what they go through, to be clear. And then we have the collaborators, who are people who literally benefit at the cost of their fellow Indians from the British rule in some way or the other. Like they live much better lives, whatever it is. So you have all of this going on, and then you just straight up have the apathetic, who are the people who they were at the bottom of Indian society to begin with. Especially when it comes to the caste system, specifically depicted in this book, and for them, the fact that India is now ruled by British, they don't care because there's no substantial change in their quality of life. Like they still enjoy everything that they enjoy. It's just another day for them. So through these different lenses, we get different looks at what British rule means for the average Indian, and like that's just the archetypes that are presented to us to give us like this logical, moral, just the idealistic and the cultural and even the emotional ways that like this British oppression had on India, on Indian society, and that's before, and that's just thinking about it when it comes to Indian society as a whole. That's before we even delve into the rifts that Indian society has within itself. Things like the caste system, things like the religious differences, and so like just those kind of cultural tensions. So it's a really complex show that Vaishnavi Patel does a brilliant job of depicting, because you have, on one hand, you have the Indians essentially on one side and the British on the others, and then you have within the Indians you have different factions themselves, and we see that the way that the British use those divisions to essentially maintain their grip and keep the people divided, and in that way they can't unite and resist. Essentially, we see the way that political, well, not necessarily political, but religious divisions in particular are exploited, and the way that like propaganda and these kind of things are used to twist and shape fear and shape rage and shape the populace in such a way that it diverts their rage, their frustration of their, it diverts their frustration at their life from the British and directs it inward at each other. And in the same breath, they do this even while they continue to extract and exploit as much as they can to live as grand a life as they can, all at the expense of Indians. So, like, the way that all of that is incorporated in the story is just absolutely next level, because it's done in a way that is not heavy-handed. It's very much part of the story. Like, we see these things often happen as just as consequences of action of the plot. Like, Kaki may decide to do something, and that whatever action she does has these rippled out consequences. So there's that. And as the story progresses and Kaki and her people grow slowly closer and closer to revolution, like we just get this human picture, a much more focused picture of what or just like the personal and the societal cost that revolution has that this entire thing has on Indian society. You can think, like, where it comes to things like fear, living under fear, and the loss of loved ones, and the rage that their loss instills in these kind of things. All when you know that you lose them for no reason other than you have these British who have decided to set themselves above you, whether you want them there or not. Like, it's pretty enraging stuff. And in addition to that, you have these other small things that just really drive the nail in the coffin, the proverbial nail in the coffin. You have things like the suppression of culture and tradition, and ideals and these kind of things. The way that they're banned, they're outlawed, they're demeaned, they're degraded, and these kind of things. But surrounding all of that, we have we get to see firsthand how these things, how they can unite a society, how they form the very fabric of a culture, and how they can be used as flashpoints to unite it, and which is exactly what part of the reason why they were banned in the first place, I would assume. And setting all of that aside, we get the big question when it comes to revolution, and one that's very fascinating to think about. What is the cost of a human life worth? Like, if the only way forward is violence and death, is that the right choice, or is there a better way? Could things be handled in a more peaceful manner, or a more indirect fashion that still achieves the same results? And I don't think I need to tell anyone who watches this video on what some people in India have thought of that particular question. I mean, look no further than Gandhi, when it comes to that. So it's like I said, it's a story that has quite a lot going on, but at the same time, it very much remains a very character-driven story. Like, we're very much invested in Kalki and her personal journey, in the shape her life was taken, all driven by the British and their exploitation, and the way that the lives of her friends have been shaped, and these kind of things. Like, even the future that she can envision, it's all shaped by the subjugation that they suffer at the hands of the British. So in that way, it, as much as it has all these things baked into it, it manages to remain a very character-driven story. And of course, with the unique plot, like, it feels like the unique structure, I should say, of the book. It feels like this book, it never quite slows down. At the same time, it's not like it's a very fast-paced book. Like, this is very much a character-driven story, very much a dramatic story, as Kalki slowly but inevitably heads in the direction that the story could only ever head in, with a character like her. And all these things get unpacked, and Kalki has to really stop and examine really stop and examine her personal morals and ideals, and just what exactly it is that she's after, and what exactly it is that she wants to achieve. That she can not just see herself achieving, but the manner in which it's handled. Because anyway, I'll leave that part for you to read and find out. So okay, this video is getting long, so all I'll say about this book at this point is that it's all in all a really complicated book. It's well, not really complicated, but it's a complex book. It has a lot going on. It's just brilliantly told, and it's a book that just further cements Vaishnavi Patel as one of the new authors who I came across, who I just have to read everything that she writes, because clearly we're in for a treat anytime we pick up one of her books. She's now, like, this is the third book I've read by her. This is the third book she's written, and it's the third one that I just thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. And if you're one of those readers who likes to read your books that have quite a bit of food for thought in them, and just get you angry at the establishment, then look no further than this particular piece. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about 10 Incarnations of Rebellion. Fascinating book. Probably going to be one of my favorite of the year. Highly recommend you check it out. And yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.